Alright lads, welcome back to the channel. So we're on the second dev server here, and there's been some rather big updates. There's only a few that I'm going to cover because a lot of them are just like minor little changes. But I don't want to waste any of your time, so let's jump straight into it. So up first, I said in my first video that the T58, kind of useless because of its choice of ammunition. They now have given it the T59E1. This is the same armor piercing round that is found on the premium T30. Rather low muzzle velocity of only 670 meters per second and a penetration of 199 millimeters. Not amazing for battle rating 8.3, but a lot of vehicles are going to be kind of soft skinned around this battle rating. Just bear in mind that there are going to be quite a lot of Soviet heavy tanks that you are going to struggle with. In that case, you may want to bring along some of the T267 heat shell, which has 406 millimeters. At battle rating 8.3, you are going to see quite a lot of up tiers to 9.3, which is very popular in the current meta of War Thunder. So I'm not really too sure whether this thing is going to be amazing in an up tier. Probably not going to be great for actually grinding out the American tech tree. Something else that has changed is the autoload has now been reduced to 2.6 seconds, making it one of the fastest firing guns in War Thunder. Never mind the fact that it is a 155mm gun. So overall, some good improvements to the T58. Also, the Helis shell has had its muzzle velocity increased to 5.63 now. It has also got a rangefinder. This is the older style of range. It's not obviously not a laser rangefinder. It's too old of a vehicle for that. But there's some nice changes to the T58. So here in the test drive, you can see even against the VT1, if I manage to get a shot right, you can't really penetrate any sort of like armor in an up tier. So the upper frontal plates of Soviet early Cold War MBTs pretty much are immune to everything you can. Your main gun round isn't particularly good, at least the APHA in my opinion. You can see as well that the Hesh also isn't really cutting the mustard, as they say. Now you could say that you could use a heat for these types of vehicles, but the heat round's pretty bad. Again, same issue that I said in my first video on the dev server. You do only have 5 rounds of ammunition in your ready rack. So once you fire those 5 rounds, you're basically just sat here waiting, really. You can see how long it takes to just load a single round. So you're going to be out of the fight for like 15 seconds if you fire all 5 rounds at once. The next thing to change is the addition of quite a lot of fire and forget IR missiles for several top tier helicopters. So the Americans get the AH-64E Guardian. You can actually take out quite a big selection of air-to-ground weapons here. So the newest one is the AGM-179 JAGM MR. You have 2 choices here. You've got semi-active laser and you've got IR. These basically act as just fire and forget IR missiles. These kind of act like brimstones. I don't really see why you'd take these over the Hellfires. It kind of seems the same. Well, I'm pretty sure it's the same chassis as well. Actually, the JAGMs are slower than the Hellfires, so I don't really know why you'd use the semi-active laser versions, but the Soviets also get some of these, only on the Mi-28NM, not on the Ki-52. So if we go into the secondary weapons here, you can see that we can take along these things called the Elmers. Now what I'd recommend is people to take the Vikirs on the outer pylons, and then you can take the Lemurs on the inners. That's because compared to all of the other helicopters which can take 16 IR fire and forget missiles, the Soviets can only take these. Well, you can only take them in 2 at a time. So you could take 8 Lemurs, or whatever they're called, into battle. But you're probably better off just taking the Vikirs, and then, because you can't take Vikirs on your inner pylons anyway, so you may as well just take 2 of these Lemurs. So you've got a very good all-round setup here for the Mi-28s. And the last helicopter getting this is the Chinese Z-10ME. These are getting the CM502 KGs. I'm not really familiar with these, to be honest. But unlike the other Chinese helicopter, this is the only Chinese helicopter that you can take air-to-ground weapons on every single pylon now. Before, the inner pylons were restricted to air-to-air missiles or rockets and stuff, but you can actually take up to 16 fire and forget missiles now if you really wanted to. You're probably better off taking some of the absolutely busted TY-90s as well. So as you can imagine, with pretty much every fire and forget missile, you simply just aim at what you want to kill and you launch it off. You can basically just ripple fire these as fast as possible. I like how Guardian added like blatantly overpowered air defense systems last update, and now they're adding kind of blatantly overpowered helicopters in the immediately one preceding it. And you can kind of see that these things just fly themselves merrily towards the target. They do take a little bit of time because they're not that fast, but As you can see, they're pretty potent, at least against these softer skinned vehicles. And I'm pretty sure that these missiles as well are semi-armor piercing. So they actually do quite a lot of damage to the top of vehicles. Whereas some things like Hellfires, they kind of just like make your... They like destroy the breach but not really do too much damage. And the last of the major changes is going to be towards the Oplot, the T58. So it actually does have its frontal armor scheme now. Now, quite strange, this doesn't have the same armor scheme as the T80UD, which I assumed it would. It's actually got quite an early armor array. The ERA as well, also not amazing to be honest. So if we compare it to the DM53 fired by the Leopard 2A7, sorry, you can see that you can kind of go through it from the front. Not really the best armor protection, I'll be honest, for a main battle tank, but yeah, I don't really know what's going on there. I would have assumed it would have had at least as good armor protection as a T80UD, considering it's literally a development of it, I'm pretty sure. But it does also get the Dazzler type things. This is called the Varta. I assume it works the same way as the Storer on the T90, which means it's probably going to be pretty much useless against all modern ATGMs. Maybe if someone's bringing a BMP2 up to 12.0, maybe you'll defeat that. But it does get a Commander's Thermal, as well as a 12.7mm anti-helicopter machine gun, as all good Soviet tanks do. It's pretty much it really for that tank. It's got the BT4 round, 5.52mm of pen, pretty much the export DTC 10 round fan in the Chinese tech tree. And that's pretty much it, lads. I'll leave a link in the description to the changelog for this second dev server if you want to look over the minor changes yourself. Thank you very much for watching, lads, and I'll see you in the next video.